compared to the end of 2014. The cost of debt has continued to decline to fall below 3%. This reflects the success of our debt management policy that benefited from a low rate environment and the high quality of our credit rating. Our financing transactions in 2015 reflect this. In June, we bought back 0.6 billion euros in bonds with a coupon of 4.4%, and earlier in the year we issued 2.5 billion euros with a very low coupon, average coupon of 0.75%, with an average maturity of 10 years. Turning now to our financial balance for 2016 to 2018, we plan to fund the dividend of projects that we've already committed to through our annual cash generation, and we will use the portfolio rotation program to invest in new projects, reduce the debt, and accelerate the digital transformation. This calibration should allow us to implement our strategy. I'd now like to say a brief word about the 2016 targets and our non-financial objectives. Firstly, our financial objectives. Against the backdrop of a challenging market, we're banking for 2016 on a resilient net income group share within a range of 2.4 to 2.7 billion euros. This range includes the impact of the non-contracted asset disposals and exposed to market prices in the US, as well as 2 coal-fired power plants in Asia announced at the early year, based on EBITDA expected between 10.8 and 11.4 billion euros before disposals on the basis of 2015 end-of-year prices. Of course, we maintain our guidance in terms of a Category A rating and of a debt net EBITDA ratio lower than or equal to 2.5. Nevertheless, given this extended period of low prices and a challenging context, Moody's and S&P have lowered our rating by a notch. Last week, our rating with these two agencies remains Category A and is consistent with our objective. Engie was the only company in the sector whose rating has not been lowered since the crisis, even though the market metrics had evolved negatively. We maintain one of the best positions within the sector. This lowering of our credit rating should not significantly impact our cost of debt. The quality of the signature of our debt remains strongly appreciated. The average cost of our debt has continued to decline at 2.95% at the end of Q1. We also confirmed that we plan a dividend per share of €1 paid in cash in respect of 2016 in accordance with the group's pledge and because our financial situation allows this. Lastly, the results at March 31st, 2016 that we published last Friday allow us to confirm this objective. In spite of the unfavorable market context and a relatively warm start to the year, our performance is strong and EBITDA is up organically thanks to the restart of Doel 3 and Tihange 2 and the performance plan efforts. Your group has also reduced its net debt over the first quarter. The performance of our company cannot simply be the reflection of its financial outlook. Our capacity to address social, societal, and environmental challenges of our century is part of this. In the second half of last year, Engie is now in two of the most recognized non-financial indices, the Dow Jones Sustainable Index established by Rebecca Sam. This integration places Engie amongst the 10% of companies seen as the most sustainable in the water and utilities sector. It has set 6 non-financial targets to reach by 2020. We've incorporated 2 new indicators that we're pledging to: B2C customer satisfaction and dialogue with our stakeholders. Furthermore, we strengthen our objectives on the reduction of CO2 emissions, the share of renewables production capacity, the internal frequency rate of accidents, and the gender equality ratio in the group's headcount. You can find all these environmental and social indicators in the group's annual report that was published today. This report also presents an overarching vision of the group, its strategy, its activities, the environment in which it operates, and the short, medium, and long-term outlook. Thank you for your attention.
Bonjour à tous.
Good afternoon to you all. Good afternoon to those who are following us live on our website. Thanks for being with us today. It's an important day for Engie, for all its employees, and not just for we on this platform. It's the day which we transfer the banner from one generation to the next generation. I know that many of you are loyal attendees at this AGM, and I recognize many familiar faces. We've met with you on several occasions. I've very often attended this AGM as a young engineer because I've spent my formative years in this company and 3 years as CFO, where I presented the group's financial statements, as Judith has just done. And Judith, well done for doing that in such a relaxed approach, an easy approach in a language that is not your mother tongue. And 2 years as Deputy CEO. And if tomorrow, if you approve of this, I will assume the position as CEO of the group. Gérard recalled all the groups, the stages through which I've passed, and I feel very moved today. It's no easy task. It's an awesome challenge to assume the lead of an energy group against a context that you're familiar with. Gérard and Judith has recalled, against the drop in energy prices that impacted your share price and indeed the share price of many utilities. And we know that the drop in the energy prices is only the tip of the iceberg, an iceberg that is far deeper, which is that of a fundamental change in the global energy system. And I'd like to thank the board for the trust it has placed in me in allowing me to take over the helm of this group. And I'm proud to succeed following Gérard's footsteps, who's industry captain, much admired, and I'm proud to inaugurate a tandem with him tomorrow, chairman and CEO, that I myself proposed, which in fact in some cases surprised Gérard. I'd like to express my full gratitude from the group that knows no equivalent in the sector. And I'll return to the strengths of Engie in a moment and the road travelled at your side, almost 15 years now, that has allowed me to grow both as a person and in my professional capacity. You always taken great care of the professional development of the group's employees, many of those part of the management team who were identified, recruited and trained by you, and it's with them that I will be meeting the challenge. It's a difficult challenge, but it's an absolutely fascinating challenge because one clearly senses that from this new global energy system there can emanate considerable benefits for the planet as a whole, for its inhabitants, and also considerable benefits for companies of the energy sector, at least for those who will know how to place themselves at the heart of this new energy system. And for that, transformation is required. A deep and swift transformation is required, and that therein lies the heart of our challenge today, and that's what I'd like to discuss with you. But before that, I'd like to return to this new energy world. What does it look like, this new playing field, and also the strengths of our group? And then I'll return in greater detail to the Engie transformation plan. Firstly, this new energy world, what does it look like? Gérard mentioned climate change earlier, and this climate change clearly changes everything, and not just the climate. It's the genuinely first global challenge, the first time that no one can say it's not my problem. And this, of course, invites everyone, you in this room, we, all industrial economic players, to reassess the modes of production, modes of life. It's a revolution in the minds before being a revolution or technological revolution, an invitation to invent something different and something else. And the flurry of activity that we're seeing in the energy world as well as the digital world would seem to indicate that this something else is indeed possible. I'd like to take three examples. First example is probably the most spectacular, is the drop in energy production prices from solar power. You see that the price of electricity produced has gone from over $350 per megawatt hour in 2008 to less than $50 in 2016. We won an RFP recently, request for proposals in Latin America at $48 a megawatt hour. And last week in Saudi Arabia, a local company has just won an RFP at $30 a megawatt hour. So this trend is not yet over. And this is a real shift because solar power has three characteristics. The first, it's almost limitless in respect of what the world consumes by way of energy. This reservoir of energy, if we can tap it, represents about 20 times global energy consumption. Second characteristic, this energy is quite well distributed and spread. You see on this map that a number of least developed countries, in red on the chart, have the greatest solar power stock, so we can see that the geopolitical order can be upended through the development of these technologies. And last characteristic of solar power is that we can also adjust it to all sizes. We can have big solar wind farms. It's the case of the Saudi facility, but also on a smaller scale on your roofs, on your iPad, on your telephone, or even integrated in asphalt, as a major construction company's just done. So we can see that on the back of this development, there's a type of energy infrastructure that is looming that's very different, where at least part of energy generation will be integrated in items, in objects. So that's the first example of this change, is power generation from solar power. Secondly, hydrogen value change. You know, we're a leading gas provider. For the time being, the large part of the gases that we operate, that we integrate in our industrial processes, are gases from fossil fuels. And even if gas is the least polluting fossil fuel that provokes the least global warming, we're trying to green it to ensure that this gas becomes carbon-free. Well, hydrogen is one of these green gases that can be produced without carbon emissions. So as a gas specialist, we're taking a very close look at this, and we're moving forward in these developments, and we see that hydrogen can indeed be a very attractive way of storing electricity. You know that one of the characteristics of renewables is they're intermittent,